So only Fox News and the AP have officially called Arizona for Joe Biden. The New York Times, CNN, us, we're still leaving it hanging out there open. Congressman, you're on the ground, obviously. I know you're talking to every local election official in Arizona. Specifically, one of the big concerns was Maricopa County. But what are you hearing now? We're showing on the screen the latest totals here. Biden does have a lead of 69,000 votes. What's it ultimately going to come down to?
Well, you still have about 520,000 plus votes to be counted, and those votes are going to determine this. And those votes include everything from day of balloting to late early ballots that are just now being counted, and also dropped off early ballots. And in some counties, the rural counties, Trump was scoring about 80% of those votes, and other places not so good. But we think that this is going to break. He's got to get about 56%, 56.5% of all of those ballots to win. And in the two tranches released last night, he was just under 60%. And that's consistent with the groups of ballots I just told you about.
Yep.
We think he's going to end up winning 30 to 50,000 votes.
Now, you can kind of fudge these numbers however you want. They are fungible somewhat. Well, not really fungible, but when you look at the impact that early call had by Fox News, and there was a specific mention of this, I believe, in the New York Times yesterday, that it may have suppressed some of the vote because people said, you know, what's the point of even going out and voting anymore? A lot of Trump supporters waiting until the day of the election, and maybe they were turned off and said, you know what, Fox News went ahead and called this, so I don't need to go out and vote. They probably got it right. But this was a scene outside of the Maricopa County Recorder's Office, just outside of Phoenix. Take a listen to what these folks were chanting.
And they're actually chanting, "Fox News sucks."
Now, I won't ask you to weigh in on that specific. That's more of a kind of subjective thing, or an objective thing there, but or subjective, I should say. But what about this situation? The New York Times is saying that they believe that some of the vote may have been suppressed because of that early call. Do you think that's the case?
Yeah, so what happened is there were 1 million ballots that hadn't even been counted in Arizona when they made the call. And because of some glitches, we had some polls that were staying open late. And also in Arizona, law requires that if somebody's in line, and that line may take an hour or two to get through, but if they're in line when the polls close, they get the vote. And so we know that there were some polling places that were there where you had people waiting to vote when that came out. Whether that's suppressed votes or not, I'm not sure, but it doesn't seem appropriate for them to do that, especially when you had 1 million votes that were going to be counted yet. That's a third of our votes, and they were making the call.
It is a lot of votes still hanging out there. But let's talk about something we do know. The makeup of the House is going to be a little bit different next time around. Beating expectation, GOP picked up some seats in the House. Nancy Pelosi comes back weaker, setting up an intense battle for the soul of the Democratic caucus. What happens? Does Nancy Pelosi remain as Speaker, or is she going to be challenged and ultimately defeated because of kind of her failure to deliver?
Well, she had a colossal failure. She overpromised and underdelivered. And instead of us losing 10 or 15 seats, we're actually going to pick up probably somewhere in that neighborhood. And the bottom line for her is, what will her, the ultra left, she's left wing, but there's an ultra left swing there in her party. Will they put up with that? She's been challenged before. I wouldn't be surprised if she survives it, but I can tell you that there's going to be a real challenge there. That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah, we see the balance of power up. I mean, obviously, Republicans are still in the minority in the House. We do expect Republicans to retain the majority. But, Congressman, that does not set up a very, you know, if Joe Biden does win, that's not necessarily the scenario you want if you're the president, where you have a Senate that can block almost anything that happens. And also, you know, Nancy Pelosi and Joe Biden, establishment-type characters in the Democratic Party, they're going to face this intense pressure from the far left.
Absolutely right. And you'll see that the margin is going to be very narrow, and she will not be able to. So if she wants to do something to appease her far left wing, she's not going to necessarily be able to do it, because she's going to be facing the more moderate wing, who are in swing districts that barely won this time. There are a lot of really, really close races that the Democrats just barely eked out. And if they go in and they start voting with Nancy Pelosi and wild-eyed, crazy left-wing stuff again, they're going to be defeated in 2022. And so they be careful what you wish for. They're going to be in for a real tight battle. And I think if Nancy Pelosi's there, just because if Biden were to win, it doesn't mean that they're going to get all the left-wing stuff they want out of there.
Yeah, I don't want to get too ahead of myself, but the 2022 is going to be very interesting indeed. Congressman, great to see you. Thanks so much for your